Parshat Bo, I think, has a story to tell, and I think it has something that can anchor us in this moment and the future. And as I read it this week, I went over a few things that I thought I would just bring into us, bring here for us, which is, one is just cool. In the Torah Tamet, we have the curious assertion that the gematria, which is the Kabbalistic way of linking words and concepts, of Bo Pharaoh, is perfectly equivalent to the gematria of the word Mashiach, right? Implying that there is something messianic, Mashiach is the Messiah, about this moment where Moses comes to Pharaoh. And I will add my personal gloss to that, which is the gematria of that phrase is also equivalent to the word nachash, or serpent, implying the opposite, that there's something evil happening in this moment as well. That's really all on that. That's just a fun tidbit. So what I really want to speak about this week is something that my colleague, Rabbi Rafi, spoke about last night. He spoke about light. And so Dvar Acher, which is rabbinic for, and now another take, I thought I would talk about darkness. And we have this line, this plague. We have our penultimate plague. It says, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Netei yadcha al hashamayim vayehi hoshech al eretz Mitzrayim vayamesh hoshech. And God said to Moses, hold out your arm towards the sky, that there may be darkness upon the land of Egypt, a darkness that can be touched. And Moses held his arm out towards the sky. Thick darkness descended upon all the land of Egypt. Okay, so clearly great minds think alike, by the way. We really have something to say about this darkness, because if y'all can remember, some of you may have been here back to Parshat Miketz and Hanukkah a month ago. I spoke about dark times. And I thought, well, that's that. Good job, Michael, you've solved it. And imagine my surprise, by the way, when people somehow all over the political spectrum keep talking to me about dark times. I thought I covered it. Apparently not. So when I came across this line in this week's Parsha, I dove in. What is darkness in our tradition, that it can be touched, and what can we learn from the way our tradition has understood it, and how does it anchor us in our present moments? So our Midrash, the exposition of our terse Torah, gives us a clue from Shemot Rabbah, right? It says, this is not an ordinary darkness. Where have you seen this darkness before? Right? Well, we saw it actually, right? V'choshech al panei tehom. And darkness was upon the surface of the depths. It's in Genesis. This is not the sun going down. This is the primordial darkness that existed before creation. It's the darkness of fear, disorder, and it's antithetical to creation and the living world. It's nothing that any human has ever experienced before or since. And a fun fact, by the way, this darkness that God sent, says our tradition, decided upon getting to Egypt to make the situation even darker of its own initiative. So the first commentary that might enlighten us, no pun intended, is from Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, who wants to bring this idea further, and he says the darkness is an absence of divinity. It's God hiding God's face from who was there. And I want to put that in modern terms to anchor us in the moment. Rabbi Nachman is saying is that without an active sense of the presence of God, and I use that in the inclusive sense here, without an active sense of divinity or holiness or something greater than yourself, we'll live in dark times. So that's the first idea I'm taking away from this. Darkness is the absence of that spiritual connected experience, but there might be an antidote. Another idea from tradition. What's the plague of darkness? What are dark times? The Kotzker Rebbe teaches true darkness is actually not the absence of physical light, but the inability to see and acknowledge the humanity of others. This moral blindness, this emotional isolation leads to a breakdown in empathy, in communication, as we fail to connect with those around us. Now, just a second. If Rabbi Nachman says darkness is an absence of divinity, here we have someone saying quite differently. Darkness is the absence of awareness of others. But actually, these two things are not so far removed. There's a lot of links in Torah. You can take your pick. I picked right? B'tselem Elohim hu bara otam, right? And in God's image, humans were made. That is to say, humans and God, and the awareness of both are deeply linked. So back at Hanukkah, I mentioned an offhand comment I got from a friend of mine, a pastor, when I was kvetching about dark times. And he said, well, as a Jew, it must be nice to be on such familiar ground. And I have to tell you that that pastor was onto something. Look, we have two interpretations of darkness here and two subsequent frameworks on what to do next. Develop an awareness of the divine and spiritual. Develop an awareness of those around you, whoever they may be. See, the oddest part of our Hasidic masters is the way that each of them viewed darkness as an opportunity. Yes, the darkness was terrible. They didn't sugarcoat it. They didn't, and I can't help myself, they didn't make light of it. Yes, it was terrible, but what they chose to focus on was the potential in those moments for people to change, grow, and improve. The Zohar says there is no light but that which comes from darkness. For Rabbi Nachman, this becomes the basis of his philosophy, Yerida Tachlit Aliyah, a descent into darkness in order to ascend. Enough. What I'm going for is this. Dark times happen. There are moments of disorder where we fear, where sometimes it seems that the darkness gets darker of its own initiative. And our tradition says clearly, what an opportunity. What a moment. What we're facing may not change, but what we choose to focus on and put our efforts into can make all the difference, can be the difference between being an Egyptian in darkness or an Israelite who navigates that darkness in light. So I want to close by offering a story I shared with someone recently, speaking about feeling what they felt were living in what they felt were sort of dark or godless times. And it's another story of the Kotzker Rebbe, who was correcting someone who claimed, unfortunately in front of him, that the holiest moment of the year is, any guesses, by the way? Not quite. They claimed it was Ne'ilah, right? Ne'ilah, the locking of the gates, right at the end of Yom Kippur. And the Rebbe violently disagreed. It said that he yelled and banged his fist on the table. No, no, and no, he shouted. The holiest time is today. The holiest person is you. And the holiest place is right here. Good way to navigate the darkness. Shabbat Shalom.